In this episode, we continue with the theme of aligning calendars to our energy levels. Last episode, we talked about the 9 to 5 office hours, and this time we consider the challenge of scheduling time to do side hustles. How do you find the time? Hi and welcome to the Snooze Strategists. We believe in designing your work and life around energy levels so you can achieve more, work less, and be healthier. I'm Alex Young, and I've got here with me Ashton Vithana. How are you?
I'm good. I'm keeping an eye on the clock and dreading the energy drop that coming very soon to me.
It's 2 o'clock. We've just had our lunch.
That's right.
So you should have a little bit of a top up depending on what you ate. So scheduling time for side hustles. So this is a good one. It's going to be a good discussion. We've both had experience in terms of how do we fit things in outside of work, because last time it was 9 to 5. We've talked about the 5 a.m. club, and some people do things before the day really starts. I'm someone that does a lot after the day ends. But for many people, if they've got aspirations to do side projects, whether they're doing working on a board, they've got second, third jobs, they're working on special projects, whatever they may be doing, it's always a challenge finding the time without impacting your personal life, as well as spending time with friends and family. But let's dig into some good ideas and recommendations from a calendar perspective, but then also just some good tips from our own experiences around how do we make time available and how do you lock it in and how do you make it work.
This is one of my favorite topics, so I'm quite excited to discuss this one. So I guess our first point, or the first recommendation, is understanding your energy levels. We talked about this in a couple of episodes in the past. Understand your chronotype, understand where your energy peaks and troughs are. And next thing, I think probably the most important part of this, have a clear boundary to disconnect from work. A lot of our listeners, and I mean, my co-host Alex as well, we are the type A personalities, are very driven, want to change the world, want to do more. Problem with that is often you'd forget about yourself and the work keeps going. Especially when for this topic, problem with finishing work and then start work again, you don't get energy, time to re-energize. So unwinding and clearly disconnecting from 9 to 5 job is really important. I was reading an article in Wall Street Journal. Sundar Pichai was saying for him to unwind, he used non-sleep deep rest methods, because otherwise he find it really hard to come from his probably quite stressful daytime job and connect with the family and do, I guess, other things with the after work. So this is quite important. Unwind. I personally use my VR headset and play cricket for a 15-20 minutes, immerse in a virtual world, and that really helped me to forget about work and almost kind of shift to my non-work life. So that's something quite important. Do you have any rituals and routines you do, Alex?
Yeah, I'm just reflecting on the last year and a half for me, because I've been working on another startup in the background. We've put it to bed right now, unfortunately, but with that one, in order to, for those 3 points, I mean, the first one around understanding the energy levels, because I'm more of a night owl, we did most of our activity. We did all of our activities from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Across the three of us. I've got young kids. One of the other founders got young kids. The other one didn't, but also like what worked best for amongst the three of us. The clear boundaries were that I used a different computer. So I've got my work computer. It wasn't just a separation of the work and the content, but it was also a mental shift for me to go, okay, I'm not thinking about the day job now. I'm going to shift my attention to something else. It's very easy for you to have a work email accidentally pop up in the background. So it's actually quite good to separate that. And that blocking out dedicated time, 9:30 was because the kids go to sleep from 8 to 9. And it was just about straight after that. So the family were all aware of what I was doing. So I think that's important.
Yeah. And block in now dedicated time for these activities, and share that with
Yep.
other family members, so you have that, once again, connection and the support we have discussed in the past. This is almost like a movement. You need other people to support you.
Yeah, so my wife and I have got a shared calendar, so she knows when I'm up to all sorts of little activities with different people, different projects, and so she just knows. I guess particularly with the kids, like when I'm available or not, or what's flexible or not. Um, but just like thinking about the energy levels one again, uh, also recognizing what are the energy suckers as
Mm.
well. So what's also consuming your time? And for me, that's usually gaming. So whether it's playing a game on the computer or the mobile phone, just being cognizant of that. It's like if you want to do this project, you got to reduce time off that,
Right.
and just understanding that balance, because it's all a balance. You can't have twice the time. Um, but also what saps your energy, because sitting there playing Counter Strike for hours, it can be quite draining on probably the best of your cognitive energy.
Yeah, very good call out. We have finite amount of time, and we have to set boundaries. Yep, definitely. Limit the time you play on games or watching things on the
Mm.
screens. Really important.
Cool. So this is really good from a calendar perspective, as you called out, blocking out time in the calendar. Last episode we talked about how to do that. This time it's just, apart from your 9 to 5, if you're an early bird, block out your 5 a.m. time. If you're a night owl, then book in your 10 to 11 o'clock time. So just be really clear and intentional about it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. And it's a good point you raise, that depending on our chronotype, the analytical
Mm.
capacity, it changes. And so for morning people, it's really good to wake up a bit early. If you are a morning person, and block that time to work on your startup, you can probably focus a bit more and do tasks that requires a lot of thinking, and focus. And if you're a night owl, you do have a peak in the morning. That's probably good for your insight work. So it's not as
Mm.
vigilant as a morning person's morning peak. So that really, if it's for analytical work where you require very sharp thinking, very sharp focus, that should come in the second half of the day. So perhaps that's an important reminder for yourself to, um, if you finish work at 5, just finish work at 5, because otherwise that valuable time that you can perform well, you will spend on working on someone else's business. So if it's 9 to 5, respect that, take care of yourself, finish work at 5, do a bit of
Mm.
rest, shift your mind, and then you start your side hustle work then, because then you can utilize that time to be a bit more productive.
Yep. All right. Let's have a look at. We've got some broader recommendations here. So this is more broadly around. Um, you can't always work how you want to work, and your day job may or may not support that. So here's some considerations when it comes to that. So we've got this first one here around establishing a routine or a habit for dedicated or protected time. So I think we keep harping on about this, and I guess there's a real reason why you want, particularly for yourself, to have some protected time that you know is always there for you to focus on. But that routine, that habit, for instance, that the last startup I was working on, every Tuesday, every Thursday, 9:30 to 10:30, booked in. It was, you didn't have to think, is the meeting on tonight or not tonight? It's like it's routine. You know it's there. So having that, I think, is critical. Um, Particularly if you're working beyond yourself. So you want to allocate time you want to coordinate time with others as well. Um, Yeah, if you want to add to that, Ashen.
Yeah, very important. And coming from a scientific background, humans from a cellular level, they like the routine. We were evolved on a routine around light or sunlight, so that still applies nowadays. So that importance of the routine. I mean, you're right. We keep harping about this for a while, but it is quite important for you to be productive, having a routine from both biological point of view and your daily productive work point of view as well.
Hmm. And a good example of that is what we're doing now, Snooze Strategists. So, we've been doing it for a couple of months now. We dedicate, some time on our weekend for it. And as I've mentioned off camera, I'm, these mornings or lunch times that we record, I'm not always at my most energetic, but because I'm aware that it's happening, I don't know. It's interesting. It feels like I can anticipate in advance, or I can anticipate, so therefore my energy levels can cope, because I know it's not for the whole day. We spend a couple of hours, but there's a habit, it's a routine, so it's not a surprise to me. Oh, suddenly I need to scramble Friday night and be prepared for Saturday. The next one, potentially have something different about your environment. So once again, that separation from day job, but make it quite substantial around you. So that's about whether it's, as I've mentioned before, my work PC is a PC, and for things like this, New Strategist, I've got my Mac. That's different. I work in a different room. Um, I'm not in the office, so there's a lot of indicators in my environment that make it feel quite different. So mentally, physically, different mindset, different environment, different temperature, all that sort of thing can make a difference as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really important to have that to regain your mental energy, because most of the time at the end of the day we are just drained from work. So
Mm,
little things like this can help you to regain that energy and be more productive after hours.
yeah. Yep. And I guess building on that to make it feel different. So we were talking a lot about music is a great way for me, because I love music and I need music, and music gives me energy. And so like that's where I get a lot of my energy from, music. Um, uh, that's something which really creates a different environment, atmosphere, vibe, energy for work that I do after hours. Comfortable clothing, so put on some sweats and t-shirt and just feel comfortable. As I mentioned, different computer. I use a different computer, different setup. You don't have to duplicate your work environment, but just little things make a big difference. With the Mac, it's a different operating system, different workflow. I use slightly different tools, but I find it hugely beneficial to shift my mindset from the day job to side projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you find it really difficult to have that shift, perhaps important considering some sort of meditation. It could be your standard breathing exercises. It could be hypnosis based one. And as we mentioned in last a bit earlier, it could be non-sleep deep restorative exercises. Just
Mm,
Google, you can find them quite easily. There are a lot of free tools as well. Will help you to make that break.
that's a good point. Um, and as you mentioned, um, depending on who you're working with or who's in your team, it may actually not be at your preferred time of the day. So, for instance, for me, if we had to have 6 a.m. meetings, because that's when the rest of the team were at their highest energy level, not for me. Or vice versa. If I said, let's all meet at 10 o'clock at night, and for them they're like, oh, we're brain dead by that time. There's some other ways to overcome that low energy block. So exercise, movement, play, socializing. So getting your body active and movement is one way to just invigorate it, wake up again. Ashton, you're talking about play and socializing, and I guess that's using your brain power in a different way, but that's a wonderful break from the sort of tedious work or the style of work that you may be doing it in your day job.
Yeah, that's right. I think problem with some of these highly driven people juggle so many things and they forget the important little things that add value. Play is one of these things. Play could be anything from just actually building something, doing your hobby, something that would bring the joy to your life, and of course socializing. This, I think we talked off camera about solopreneurs, and there's quite a rise of them as well now. And it's when you're too busy working on your side hustle, day jobs with family, you forget to connect with people. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of newer research, and there's a fantastic book by Johann Hari called Lost Connections to demonstrate the importance of the connections that have on mental health. And there are studies showing that depression, there are some studies showing you don't even need to get like SSRIs or some sort of medication for depression if you have really good, meaningful connections. I'm not saying it's a cure for depression, but it's something that can really help with mental health aspect. And I think for entrepreneurs and really driven people, mental health can be quite tricky to manage at times with the amount of stress and work you're dealing with. So it's a good, important point, the play and socializing.
So what does science say about if we think of play as whether it could be a backyard game of cricket, kicking the footy, playing PlayStation or board games, whatever, what does science say about that with regards to in I guess reinvigorating you?
There's definitely evidence to suggest that it brings you joy, which brings you energy with that, and also that gives a good rest to the break, I think, in layman's terms. So and that, for this particular purpose, that will give you it's almost like, think of as a shot of caffeine for your after hours. You could see that as a waste of time playing footy with the mates, or just having a beer, but that actually can add some value for your daily life.
Okay, that's a good point. We've talked in the past about coffee. We've talked in the past about I know we may have mentioned the yerba mate. We talked about other supplements and all sorts of things. That's one option, and I guess that's the go-to. A lot of people, I'll get a Red Bull or a V, but these options around exercise, movement, play, socializing are probably much more broadly beneficial, and they're not likely to have a quick spike as well.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Cool. That's brilliant. So I think we've covered quite a bit there. And that's good. There's hopefully there's something there for everyone with regards to how they approach. I mean, everyone sort of finds their time, but I think it's good to have a bit of a system behind it and a consideration for how they make the most of that after hours time. Cool. All right. Thanks for that. And that's today. That's it for today's episode. So until then, we're Alex and Ashen, your trusty snooze strategists, reminding you to catch those Z's and keep dreaming of a well-rested world. So sweet dreams, and we'll see you next time.